Hi, welcome to Movies Moment. Today we are going to explain a movie called The Cloverhitch Killer. Spoilers ahead. Subscribe if you like this and catch us on the next one. Take care.
The movie begins with Don and Tyler organizing the equipment they used for the Boy Scout group, where Don is the troop leader and Tyler is one of the members. Don talks to his son about joining a leadership camp, implying he might not be able to send Tyler due to the rising insurance cost for his brother, Rudy. However, Tyler argues that he needs the leadership camp to stand out in his application. Don responds by saying that they need to work on Tyler's rank, but it will take a bit longer to achieve. One night, Tyler receives a text message from a girl named Amy. He secretly takes his father's truck keys, drives to an empty parking lot, and invites Amy to his father's car. The two confess their feelings for each other and share a kiss. They were about to go further when Amy moved the car seat and noticed a photo of a woman tied up, including her mouth. Amy assumes the photo belongs to Tyler, but he denies it. Amy, however, reacts coldly, saying it's getting late, and Tyler starts the truck's engine as she decides to leave. The next morning, it's Sunday, and Amy is awkward with Tyler because of the previous night. After their Sunday service, Billy approaches Tyler and tells him about a girl named Cassie, who is always sitting in a corner of the church and who does the same report about the killings every year at their school. Tyler teases Billy, asking if he has a crush on her, but Billy looks disgusted and shares rumors about the girl and her mother. Their conversation is interrupted by Tyler's mother, Cindy. As Tyler gets into the car, the camera focuses on a group of girls, including Amy, who look over at him as if they're discussing him. When Tyler gets home, he receives a text from Billy confirming that they were indeed talking about him. While they are at the memorial for the Cloverhitch killer's victims, Tyler tries to further explain to Amy what she saw the other night, but she doesn't believe him and is only concerned with her own reputation. He is then approached by Cassie, who asks him what he did to his friends. Tyler explains that someone is spreading rumors about him. He is about to walk away from her, but tells her he's heard rumors about her as well. She fires back with the same accusation, even calling him a perv. Tyler's curiosity about the photo he saw in his father's truck grows. When he's alone at home, he goes to his father's shed and manages to unlock it. Inside, he doesn't see anything suspicious, only typical tools and equipment. But then he notices a crack in the floor, where he finds a box filled with magazines featuring women tied up, with images cut out on each page. At the very bottom of the box, he finds a Polaroid photo of a woman bound, with her name, Nora, written on it. That night, Tyler is visibly disturbed by what he saw. He starts to search online for information about the mysterious murders in their town. He finds an article about one of the victims named Nora, confirming that she is the same woman he saw in the photo. His search is interrupted by his mother, so he doesn't get to dig deeper. Tyler later goes to his father's shed, and upon sitting in front of his father, he notices that something has changed in the area where he found the magazines. Don starts talking to Tyler about secrets, beginning with how Tyler secretly used his truck the other night. Don then shifts the conversation to his son's personal life, giving a lecture that connects the topic to God. Don assumes this is the secret Tyler is hiding, but clearly, that isn't the case at all. Tyler tries to talk to Billy to explain what Amy has been spreading about him, but Billy is unconvinced, simply telling him it's a sin. With no other options, Tyler goes to the church, where he sees Cassie. He follows her into the woods and begins asking if she knows anything about Cloverhitch. She becomes suspicious about his sudden interest, but eventually gives him an address where they can talk more freely. Tyler goes to the address Cassie gave him and is greeted by an older woman who used to work with the police. Cassie shows him the books on Cloverhitch, which the old woman wrote. She also shares files related to the Cloverhitch killer. There are no fingerprints, no blood, no DNA that could identify the killer, only his distinctive use of rope, which seems to be his signature. Cassie also shows Tyler a necklace belonging to one of the victims that was found outside the church, even though the victim had never attended church. Cassie is determined to catch the killer, believing he won't stop killing and suspecting there are more than 10 victims. Tyler lies to his parents, saying he's decided to volunteer as a tutor in the afternoons. But that's just to hide his and Cassie's investigation into the Cloverhitch killer. One afternoon, however, Don sees Tyler leaving the place where he usually meets Cassie. That night, Don talks to Tyler, saying he saw him with his girlfriend. Tyler has to go along with it, so he pretends that it's true. Don tells Tyler he should invite Cassie to dinner the next day so they can meet her. Cassie agrees to the dinner, and she and Tyler pretend to be a couple. After dinner, on their way to drop her off, Cassie tells Tyler to stop for a moment and explains that his father isn't Cloverhitch. Tyler, however, believes his dad is Cloverhitch because of the photos, but Cassie assures him otherwise and still isn't convinced. Later that night, as Tyler is getting ready for bed, he suddenly sees Cassie outside his window. She tells him she's troubled by what he said about the Polaroid photo he found among his father's belongings. They go to Don's shed to check if the box is still there, but it's gone. The only thing they find is a house blueprint with a drawing of a person tied to a bed. Cassie advises Tyler not to tell his father that he knows about it. Tyler examines the blueprint closely and notices an entry point to the house. Leaving the shed, he goes to a crawl space. He enters it and finds evidence proving that his father is indeed the Cloverhitch killer. The father and son go out together, but then Don begins talking to Tyler, revealing that he knows what his son found in the shed and the crawl space. Don tells him the items aren't his, they belong to his brother, Rudy. Don insists that Rudy is the Cloverhitch killer. He recounts how he told his brother, "You gotta turn yourself in," after discovering the evidence in Rudy's trailer. He adds that Rudy tried to take his own life by driving off the road, which is what caused his paralysis. Don explains that he was about to burn the evidence but felt that the victims' families had the right to know, so he couldn't go through with it. Tyler tells his father it still seems like he's the killer, but Don convinces him otherwise, saying he's only trying to protect his brother. Tyler then tells his father they have two choices, either take the evidence to the police or destroy it. That night, they decide to burn all the evidence. The Burnsides then take Tyler to the bus station for his leadership camp. Afterward, the three have lunch together, and during their conversation, Cindy mentions her mother to their daughter, which prompts Don to suggest that Cindy and their daughter visit her mother for a week or two. Don excuses himself from going, saying he has work to handle and needs to care for Rudy, which seems acceptable for him to stay behind alone. Don's days alone appear normal at first, but when he visits the market, he encounters a woman. She's about to grab some frozen food from the fridge when Don steps in, reaching for the item she was after. After this interaction, Don's gaze lingers on her, and he eventually follows her to her home. Back at his own house, Don goes to the attic, where he finds an old Polaroid camera. He begins setting up his props, dressing in women's clothing with a wig and a mask with makeup on it, taking a photo of himself with his hands bound. While looking through their bedroom for a dress, he hears the doorbell ring. Quickly, he changes back, removing the wig and mask, and goes to answer the door. It's Cassie, asking where Tyler is. Don tells her that Tyler went to the leadership camp, and they have a brief conversation. Cassie's dad then calls her on her cell phone, and she tells Don she's already late to meet her dad before leaving. One day, Don returned to the woman's house and found a basement window. He tied a rope to a pipe near the window. Days later, while the woman was asleep in her living room, Don entered through the basement window. As he reached the living room, the woman stirred awake and suddenly saw Don standing in front of her. Don pointed a gun at her, telling her not to be afraid and that he wasn't going to hurt her. He added that he was wanted by the cops for robbing a bank and needed her car to escape. He took her purse, grabbed her car keys and her ID, then took a photo of her using his Polaroid camera, threatening that if she called the cops, he would give the photo to his friends to track her down. After that, Don instructed the woman to get her bag, and they went to her bedroom. Once there, he tied her up and strangled her with a stocking. Moments later, he put a plastic bag over her head to suffocate her. Don paused, taking a moment to snap a picture with his Polaroid camera. Not long after, Tyler arrived with a rifle, aiming it at his father. When Don saw him, he told Tyler he shouldn't be there. The scene shifts to a flashback, just before Tyler left for leadership camp. Tyler and Cassie met up at an abandoned house, where Cassie explained that it was once Nora's house. Tyler told her he believed Cloverhitch was not his dad. They went inside, and Cassie described how Cloverhitch came to that house and tortured Nora. Tyler grew uncomfortable with the conversation and told Cassie that, according to his father, it was actually his uncle Rudy who was the real Cloverhitch. He grew angry with her, as they were talking about his family. In response, Cassie revealed that her own mother was killed by Cloverhitch. She grew up with the rumor that her mother left after an argument with her dad. But she knew there was a man who came, tied her mother up, and put Cassie in the bathroom. Tyler asked her mother's name, and she replied, Crystal. At that, he repeated her full name, Crystal Harper, and admitted to Cassie that he'd seen the victim's belongings, which he and his father had burned to destroy evidence. This revelation made Tyler question everything his father had told him. The scene then shifts to Tyler on the bus as he's supposedly heading to leadership camp, but instead, he ends up at Cassie's house. Day by day, they start secretly following Don to see what he does and where he goes, especially after seeing him at the grocery store and observing how he followed a woman from their back to her house. After that, Tyler sneaks back into his house to place a tracker on Don's phone. While Don is in his room looking for clothes, Tyler hides under the bed and calls Cassie for help to avoid getting caught. Cassie then calls Don, pretending it's her father on the line, creating a distraction that lets Tyler slip out undetected. They keep tracking Don's movements and follow him to his destination. Once Don leaves, they discover the rope tied to a pipe, confirming he had something planned. The next day, Tyler returns home and readies himself to confront his father, but Don is nowhere to be found, and he's left his phone on the bed. Tyler grabs the rifle, and they rush to the woman's house, where they witness Don's disturbing actions. Back in the present, Tyler has the rifle aimed at his father. Cassie enters, removes the plastic bag from the woman's head, and unties her. Don tries to lie, claiming he and the woman are having an affair. Cassie spots the revolver on a cabinet, tries to grab it, but Don stops her, slamming her against the wall. Don looks unsettled as Tyler maintains his aim, so he quickly removes the bullets from the revolver. Tyler eventually lowers the rifle and cautiously hands it over to his father, who, disappointed, pulls the trigger, only to find it empty. Realizing the situation, Tyler fights his father. As Don begins to choke Tyler, Cassie hits him with a lamp, knocking him out. She pulls out her phone to call for help, but Tyler stops her. Days after the incident, missing posters of Don appear on every utility pole. During breakfast, Cindy receives a phone call that breaks the news of her husband's passing. A few days later, Cindy enters Tyler's room and informs him that the police suspect his father's death wasn't an accident, but rather a suicide. As the film concludes, a court of honor ceremony is held for Tyler's promotion in the Boy Scouts. Tyler delivers a speech in tribute to his late father. As his speech continues, a flashback shows him and Cassie setting up a campsite in the woods after Don lost consciousness from attacking Tyler. They drag Don's body out of a bag and place him in a camping chair. Regaining a bit of consciousness, Don watches as Tyler points a gun at him. Tyler ends his speech by saying, "I love you," to his dad.